most industries, the biggest objection that you run into is financial, right? Like I don't have money or I don't want to spend the money of that. But when it comes to roofing, right, that whole hierarchy of needs, needing a roof over your head is right up there with getting food and water. That's going to take priority. And for insurance, coming in and helping in most cases cover the majority of that replacement cost, set of objections changes a little bit. As I look at it, it's like, I'm not going to judge these first few jobs based on profitability. I want to judge these first few jobs of like, do I have a happy customer at the end? And if not, what do I have to do to make them happy, right? So what does it take for me to get a 5-star review on this here, right? Then once we've done that 4 or 5 times. They've posted that review with a great picture of their finished exterior. It looks fantastic. They're happy. Then it's like, okay, we did this well. How profitable were we in doing this?
Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business.
Scott Baird, how are you today?
Man, I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I think you didn't come into roofing. You came into roofing in a very non-traditional way, in my opinion. You came in as looking for business opportunity, right? And seeing business opportunity in the market. Tell the audience a little bit about, kind of what your background is and how you got into roofing.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a unique way of getting in here. I spent about 10 years working in the front office for different baseball teams. So went to college. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a president of a sports team. That's what I got, right? And did pretty well progressing that bit by bit for a little while. But then I kind of reached a spot where in the sports industry, really to move up in your career, you're waiting for somebody to either quit or retire. And I got tired of waiting. So decided to go get my MBA and learn a little more business and got really interested in the startup world. And what was kind of fun about that is I love the idea of being able to take control of your own future and got into the startup space. Worked for a few pretty big startups over a few years and finally wanted to get something where I could do it on my own. And that's what led me to getting into the roofing side because I love the industry. There's a few things about it I really enjoy. And I love being able to have something that's inherently local.
Yeah. When you say you worked for sports for baseball teams, major league baseball teams, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's, we talked about this of the competitive nature of just being able to get hired and work in that environment. And then how you said how people just don't leave, right? So, what, you know, that's a fascinating world. And I want to get to that a little bit later and maybe some of the connections that you've made, because there's some, man, they do some great marketing
Yeah.
in Major League Sports, right? In Major League Baseball,
Mhm.
professional sports. But the first question I really wanted to ask you was, you know, really from with that experience and coming into the industry with a different kind of frame of reference, not from the sales side, not from, it was a family business or you grew up doing it and you came back to take it over. Not a lot of the ways that people traditionally get into this business, from in your kind of the way you think about it, and as you've scaled you have a Best Choice Roofing franchise. As how have you thought about rapidly building and scaling your roofing company, in this environment, with your experience?
Yeah. So I recognized like I wanted to start my own business, right? That was something I had the epiphany of a few years ago. And then kind of next step sort of whittled down exactly what did that business look like, what industry. And I looked at a bunch of different things from a youth sports program to a assisted stretching, nursing care, right? A little bit of everything, nothing that I had first work like hand experience with. But one of the things that I knew I really wanted to is, I was part of some of these companies that were flying a lot and going all over the place. And I got 2 small kids at home. So my priorities were changing as I was getting old and having something that would be inherently local was just, at the top of my priority list. And I also knew from going from the baseball world where, I might sell 10,000 $10 tickets here. I didn't want to do that route again. I wanted to sell something that was a little bit of a higher ticket item. Um, And the other thing that sounded kind of crazy when I said it 3 years ago, back before ChatGPT came out, but I wanted something that couldn't get replaced by AI. Um, Now that makes a lot more sense. I think everybody would kind of agree with that. But at that point, that sounded a little bit more out there. Um, but so those were kind of my criteria now. And then you take that and apply it in here, right? Our average ticket size is about $15,000 that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, you can't export a roof, although no one has figured out how to do that yet, right? And it gave me a chance to be home for like little league practice on Tuesdays. So those are the things that really got us interested in starting this up.
That's awesome. And that's a great thing. You went from, well, the being in the sports, industry, you'd move from team to team over the years, so there's a constant move, I would assume, there, and then you went to, what was it, hospitality after that? Was it
Yeah, no, you're right. Like so, I think my wife and I rented an apartment every year for like 7 or 8 years when I was like
Yeah.
kind of moving the way up there. Yeah, I worked for the San Francisco Giants, the Oakland A's, the longest time with the San Diego Padres in the front office down there, and sales and marketing roles, and then back up to the A's again. Um, but yeah, from there, kind of the opportunity that really took me by surprise was to go for a startup. I was in the first couple hundred employees for DoorDash, actually, which is kind of crazy because I can guarantee you in 2017, 2018, when that was happening, nobody thought it was going to be this behemoth that it is now, right? I
No.
got so many jokes from people saying I work for DoorDash, the jeans company, or, I got a
Yeah.
job as a startup, working as a pizza boy, right? So those jokes have subsided over the years that have passed, but that was a really cool chance for me to recognize like, hey, your inputs can really dictate what the future looks like. It's
Yes.
not always seasonal like it is for sports, right? Where it's like, hey, the schedule's released the same time every year. The playoffs are the same 3 or 4 weeks every year, right? Like, so that a break from that mold to something where you can really take the reins and influence what that future is going to look like. That was something that was fun and got me, and still gets me really excited about building something new.
Yeah, those are, DoorDash, and I think, what was it, Cloud Kitchen that you worked
Yeah,
with too, like, 2 very, like, visionary companies, right? There's like, that's a whole, like, they had to imagine a market before there was
yeah,
a market for it, right? What was the experience like there? Because in roofing, right? You know that there is a market here. People
yep,
need their roofs replaced. You know that you have to find good subcontractors. You know how that you have to, like, there's very few things that you have to figure out like, versus a DoorDash or a Cloud
yeah,
Kitchen or like some of these like crazy tech startups
yeah. I think
or
one of
Major
the
League Baseball for that matter, right?
yeah.
Like, they don't have as much to figure out either anymore.
What's crazy, and there are all of these challenges. I don't want to like fully
Mhm.
downplay that because they got to
No,
iterate
for
and
sure.
digital
That's
ticketing,
right.
and there's all sorts of fronts for that. Um, but one of the things that was the biggest shock for me in going to working for one of those high growth startup companies is that they would iterate and change things so quickly. And I'll admit it, I
Mm,
struggled at first going from that where it's like, cool, I got my season plan. I know exactly what I'm doing in a given month of the year. That's great. And then we'd go out there, we'd launch a new product, and then we'd change the way that people use it real quickly. And now that entire playbook that you just spent the last 2 months, 3 months working on is out the window, and it's something totally brand new that you might not have all the
mm,
details on, right? Um, but the way that that kind of pulls through to what we're doing now is on a business side. I think one of the most important things that it has with that, especially with the world looking forward for how satellite measurements are coming together, how all these integrations are popping up, is like when you see an opportunity, something you don't need to have all of the answers yet. You need to have like 80% certainty, but 100% speed. Like, and that's how that
mm.
business kind of keeps growing and growing and growing. Because I think when people are deliberate about that success, like it compounds very quickly. And that's when you get that really cool J looking curve for, revenue at DoorDash, where it started slow and then, I don't know, it's $50 billion or something now, quite a bit more than when I
Yeah,
was there. Yeah. I can't take
yeah.
the credit for that trajectory, but I was at least able to learn from it.
That's some of the funnest parts, and, like, I've learned it, on my time at Jobnimus, the development cycle and how fast things iterate, um, you know, early in my development career too, as I did server side programming and things like that. The tech side really understands this feedback loop, and they take it they do it very quickly. I love what you said: 80% certainty, 100% speed. Let's dig in on this. What is a framework or some lessons? If we had to put that in step one, step two, step three, step four, from your experience, what you saw, and then how you've moved it over into your roofing business, what would how how do you determine what to iterate next? Let's start there.
Yeah.
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Roofers, let's get real. You're great at building roofs, but are you great at building a steady stream of leads? That's where Job Nimbus Marketing comes in. They know the roofing industry inside and out, and they'll help you dominate Google, Facebook, reputation management, and everything in between. If you want more quality leads, more booked jobs, and more growth, visit the link in the description or the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website.
How do you determine what to iterate next? Let's start there.
Yeah. Yeah. So usually I try to figure that out from customers, right? They're the ones that are actually going to vote with their wallets and figure that out. They should be the ones to really tell me what I need to focus on, right? And a great example of this for us is that, so I joined Best Choice Roofing, which is a great franchise system here. It's one of the largest residential roofing companies in the United States. Uh, and the roofing process is great. I'm sure we can talk more about this more in depth shortly as well. But one thing that isn't really built out is the siding side. But what I recognized in our first 2 months of being open is that all of these prospects that we were talking to wanted somebody to do their roof and siding all at the same time. They didn't want to get different contractors for each thing. And we lost some business right away because we didn't have that as an option. So while, I had a framework to follow for the roofing side and had that part built out, I didn't have that for siding, but I recognized, you know what, I got to figure this out. I don't know the components to this. I don't know what I need to build out. I don't know how to estimate it properly. However, there's so many people telling me what this is like, we're going all in. So we quickly got partnerships with distributors. We had some presentation from suppliers. We went out and joined a group called the Certified Contractors Network to help us build the background on how to properly do all of that. And that's been a huge, huge process for us now. Like on us for as a profitable line of business, our retail siding is the top of the top for our
Wow.
product mix. So that didn't even exist 2 years ago, right? So that's kind of cool to see.
So listening. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the day to day and we're not listening, right? Or, you know, eh, there is listening to a fault too. If you start hearing, well, we also want you to do our deck, and then can you go remodel our bathroom? And so what made you say, okay, siding is something that we can add effectively and serve someone, but we're not going to do gutters, or we're not going to do decks, or we're not going to, like, where does that, in your mind, where does that line get drawn?
I'm so guilty of having this shiny object syndrome. Like of like, oh yeah, we can go do commercial roofing. We can go, bid out an industrial complex. And a part of me always wants to have some of that opportunity to kick the tire a little bit and see what
Yeah.
we can do. Um, but for me, it's like one, there's got to be a market for us here. So like when we're forecasting what this is, like what's the actual impact look like? And for us, we were getting told so frequently that siding needed to be part of this if they were going to sign with us, that we quickly realized it was going to be about 10 to 15% of our business without
Mm.
spending $1 on marketing, right? Just fully passive people telling us that they want the service, asking if we can do it, right? So we knew that there was a need there, and we knew that people were willing to pay either out of pocket or as part of the insurance um, process here. So we were able to segment that and kind of forecast like what we thought we were going to be able to make with this, and it very quickly reached the a six-figure opportunity, and we knew it didn't make sense for us to wait to forecast it to death. Is like we knew that was there. We knew somebody was going to be getting that business, and why not us?
Yeah. So it was more it was easier that way, right? Like, you it was like, this is what our customers are asking for. It's like on a high number of jobs, they're asking for this.
Yeah.
So you had 80% certainty that you could sell it. You hit it with 100% speed. You found the manufacturers, the distributors, the contractor, certified contractor network. You went and put the system in place, found crews, I would assume, and
Mhm.
did that. Did you I always wonder if people, like, how did you measure success in the beginning of launching that? What would what was it for you that would tell you this is successful or not? Now you're seeing it, right? It's like, "Oh, it's
Yes.
this percentage of our revenue." But was there
Yes.
a
Yes.
time where you put a number on it and you said, if we this, or if X is Y, or, if X is greater than Y, then this is a program for us to continue.
Great question. Because at the beginning here is I look at it as like I'm not going to judge these first few jobs based on profitability.
Yeah.
I want to judge these first few jobs of like, do I have a happy customer at the end? And if not, what do I have to do to make them happy? Right. So what does it take for me to get a 5-star review on this here? Right. Then from once we've done that 4 or 5 times. They've posted that review with a great picture of their finished exterior. It looks fantastic. They're happy. Then it's like, okay, we did this well. How profitable were we in doing this? And now that we have that, right, that's those first 5 jobs are not going to be the most efficient ones that we've ever done.
Mm,
There's no way. You got to kind of bake in the learning curve that's going to go with that, right? So being mindful of that, though, we saw that like, all right, you know what? We didn't lose money on these here. Maybe we were break even or basically above break even, but we're also at a spot where we don't need to make that same mistake twice. Maybe it's over ordering materials here or not really
mm.
knowing what the right range to pay out for a cruise would be. Kind of the other things that would go into managing what profitability would really look like. But now we've refine that process more and more, and we're still able to maintain that 5-star service that we were able to identify what's really important at the beginning and keep that going through and through. So now it's a great business.
Yeah, I love that because you started with, "Is the customer happy?" That's the main thing. We'll figure out the rest, right? We'll figure out the details. We'll get more efficient over time in our job costing. We'll get more efficient. We'll get better at what we're doing. But are we at, so the baseline metric was someone's going to give us a 5-star review because
Yes.
we did this service, right? And I wonder how much time a lot of us spend going, well, should we do vinyl siding or hardy? Like, what should we install first, and what should we and, well, I don't know if this crew's gonna work out. Well, you never had them on a job before. So how do you know, of course you don't know if they're gonna work out, you know? Um, there's so many. I don't know if we're gonna I don't know if we're gonna estimate this properly. I don't know if we're gonna bid this properly.
Yep.
All
There you go.
those,
80% of the way there, and then
80/20,
yeah.
right? You just stop. And I think there's a lot of hesitation. I mean, you sound very entrepreneurial, which a lot of us are. A lot of us as roofing business owners, um, but at the same time, like, how, in your mind, how do you not just w- you know worry about everything just collapsing in that speed?
Yeah, it's definitely a threat, right? And especially, let's take insurance for that, right? With the way that depreciation works and stuff like that, you might not finish closing a job for 3 months, 2, 3 months after it's all done, which means it might have been another month or 2 before that. So you're looking at like a 4 or 5-month feedback loop at some point. So if you're messing something up at the beginning, you might really not know how bad you messed up until 5 months down the road. And that part's a little scary, right? Especially, let's say it's you mess something up on estimating care and a storm hits, and now you got, you know,
Yeah.
50 jobs, that you got to do over the course of a few weeks and recognize like, hey, we didn't supplement for things properly or whatever that is. Like that does get scary because that gets a painful realization when you recognize kind of the opportunity that you missed on there. However, I think one of the big things for me in starting a business of my own is like I wanted something that not necessarily my kids will run one day. I can't say that they have any interest or know what I make them take over the family business, but uh, for them to have some pride in it, right, as it goes on. And when you have the customer as the North Star, is like that is the best way to make sure that you're on the right track. And you know what? We have a 5-star rating on Google right now. You know, our first 70 reviews or so, maintaining a perfect 5-star rating is great. Uh, and that's not to say like, hey, you know what? That first time through that we deserved a 5-star on every single one, but we focused like if we didn't get it right, that we made it right, and that can be an expensive phrase to live by, but it's a really, really powerful one, I think, in building this the right way.
When what everyone says this, put the customer first and all of that, but it doesn't always happen. What is it? Let's go a little bit deeper on what that means to you. Like
Yeah,
when, a 5-star review, great, right? I heard what you said, like, I want my kids to have pride in the company that we're in the area, we're local. We might run into a customer at the grocery store and they
yeah,
say, "Oh, your dad's awesome," right? Like that's a
yeah.
great thing, but like how deep are you thinking about this? What else are you thinking about in terms of that customer experience?
So I'll give you an example of one. A few weeks ago, we had a customer who did not leave us a 5-star review off the bat. We went through the supplier would not drop the material on his driveway because of a crack. And he was very surprised at the end that he got a bill for the extra man hours to go through and hand load everything all the way up to the roof, right? And it was something like $500, but he was pretty irate, right? He was thought we were pulling a quick one on him, and
Mm,
that this $500 charge wasn't real, insurance wasn't going to cover it. Um, so he was not happy, and he very much let me know. So what I did is we pulled our leadership team together here, though, in the Monday morning. We got that on a Sunday, I think it was first thing tomorrow that following day, and we sat down and we reviewed all the facts that we had on there, and then put ourselves kind of in the shoes of that customer, right? And what we recognized is like, you know what, it was not a fabricated charge, but we did not set that expectation for him at all. So as we're going through and looking at that, right, like he really was probably just sitting there one day and then just saw this magic $500 bill show up with no other context for what this was. Didn't get the ins and outs of it. Um, so I called him up. I let him know, like, hey, you know what, this is it's not some fabricated one, but I'm in agreement with you. We didn't give you ample heads up on like what this process is and how it goes. So we're gonna eat that charge here for you to make sure that you still have a good experience with us because that is very important for us. And he turned that negative review and probably to one of the best reviews that we have now. He really
mm.
appreciated the integrity that kind of went with that. Um, but like I said, it's not a cheap fix all the time, but I do think it's the right thing to do, and it's a really good way to help build that foundation and grow up and up.
Y Definitely, and then that leads to a future iteration in the expectation set in your process, right? We have to add this in. I like to say, Scott, I like to say, if your customer is wondering, you're losing, right? So
Yep.
when he saw that line item come across, he was wondering, "What the heck is this for?"
Yep.
That trust level was just shooting down, right? Like, and so now you have the opportunity to put that into the conversation prior to, so that your future customers will know, hey, this may happen, right? There may be a charge for, right? And so,
That's exactly it. And like what we see time and time again is like very few customers remember maybe the line of product that to put on or, even who the sales rep was like 1 or 2 years later. But they do remember how well, like, the communication was. And if you look at, like, you know, what one-star reviews most frequently are, it is bad communication across the board. So for us, right, how do we iterate that
yes,
and put that into our workflow moving forward is like we have 3 phone calls now with the homeowners before we install anything, right? 1, review the contract, no surprises on there. That is everything that you remember signing, right? Cool, great. Then, hey, here's when the materials are going to get delivered. Please move car out of the way, document everything. And then, hey, the day of, there's going to be 3,000 nails going on this roof here. There's a good chance that 1 or 2 are going to fall off. we're going to take a magnet and sweep everything here, but I do want you to be careful for the week to follow until, you get the lawnmower through there. So that process is built up now. And now we are much better about setting those expectations appropriately.
Yes. And you just have to listen. That's all you have to do is listen for what's going wrong. And it's an amazing thing when you open your ears, right? Like, there's opportunities there. What are some other opportunities that you found or things that you guys have done in that same vein, that 80% certainty, 100% speed?
Hmm. Man, there's a bunch. I think one of the things that I've come to recognize is, we do paid marketing for a good chunk of things, Thumbtack,
Yep.
Angie's Leads, and those are fine. Those are good core performers. But something that I've been really impressed by is like the referral importance of generating business. And to do referrals, you can't have it be kind of secondary. It needs to be front of mind, right? So part one is right to get the 5-star review, but then part two is like, hey, thank you for that great review. We really appreciate that here. Who else do you know would love to get a 5-star review just like yourself, right? Um, so for us being deliberate in searching out how do we get referrals, one from our current customer base, but two is like I'm a big believer in being part of the chamber and getting to meet the right people that way. And some of these other referral organizations, business owner group meetups, right? Being very deliberate about expanding that network so that when something does pop up that I can be top of mind for people is huge. Uh, and yeah, I'm doing probably 2 to 3 networking events a week right now, which is a lot of time of shaking hands and kissing babies. But
Mhm.
you know what? It's something that really does help build that, like not just in the short term, but for long term as well. Because I can't tell you when the next storm is going to come through, and everybody's going to be going crazy in the roofing world. But whenever that does happen, I want them to be like, "Oh, I know a guy," right? So I want to be that guy.
That's right. I know a guy. I know who to call. Right? I
Yep,
know who to call. Of course, we wrote The Best Known Roofer was a book that we wrote, right?
yep.
Be the best known roofer will beat the best. You'll
I
get the
do.
phone
I have it hidden
calls,
in there somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's awesome. And that's but it doesn't just come from doing jobs. It comes from creating an experience. It comes from creating a memorable experience, like what you said. There's stats on it, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was unbelievably low how many people even know the manufacturer of the
yeah,
shingle that's on their roof, right? Like, outrageously low. To name the sales rep is low. It is lower than you would think. To name the company that sales rep worked for is even lower,
yeah.
right?
And it's
Because the
true. It's
relationship is built with people. People build the relationships. Yeah.
yeah,
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today.
Right? Because the relationship is built with people. People build the relationships. Yeah.
yeah. And I like to think, I'm a pretty personal guy. I really do enjoy getting out and talking with people. But I mean, I could not remember who replaced my roof. It was 5 years ago. There's no way. No way. It's like, and it's kind of one of the interesting side effects of our industry, right? If we do a great job with it, they shouldn't have to think of us ever again, right? And like
Yes.
how we're installing things. Now I want them to, have such a good experience that they can be proactive about tagging it. Like I think one of the most flattering things that we get is like when I see one of our previous customers tag us on a post on Facebook saying, anybody know a good roofer? And we get that tag. That man, that's what makes me like super happy. That is like the
That's right.
best quality referral you could ever ask for. So we love doing that. But yeah, I mean, most people though, right? It's most roofing work is out of necessity, not because you got $15,000-$20,000 laying around and wanted to upgrade your shingle color.
That's right. So, relationships are great, but they take a lot. It takes time to build those, right? And
Yes.
you guys went, if I remember right, you did like 2 million in your first 9 months, of like coming into the roofing industry, right? So it didn't come from relationships, I would assume. Well, what did you do to get that jump start and get things going?
Yeah, I think it segues well to like, that process of doing the franchise versus not. Because when I was looking to buy a company, I had looked in a bunch of different directions here, and I thought I was going to purchase an existing one. Was really what I thought the most likely path was going to be. Right? They already had the framework set up. They already had it all going. Uh, but as I was going through and doing that, I got a little bit of cold feet going through and thinking like, hey, do I know all the ins and outs of this? If I'm going to come in and inherit systems that are in place, like, am I going to be able to one, learn a new business and a new industry? And so that's where I kind of pivoted and started looking at doing a ground up. And one of the things that brought me to the franchising side was like, hey, franchising, there's a playbook. And if you go through and you vet the franchisor, well, Best Choice Roofing Care has something like 90 locations across the United States now, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
proven successful model. Now, implementing that model on a local level is still my responsibility. I'm still the owner of this location here. The good, the bad, the ugly, that is my responsibility for that. But like, and being able to have a playbook that already works here, us implementing that rapidly is what it had us, yeah, get up to. I think our fourth month in business, we sold $500,000,
Nice.
which
Yeah.
was kind of crazy. I think we installed maybe 4 or 5 roofs total by that point, and had a pretty big backlog to work through. Um, but we were able to do that here, and I think having that kind of support structure was one of the things that helped us we would grow to that point anyways, but it helped us do it a lot faster.
Yes. And I would assume that's why that's why you made the decision to do franchise versus, you know, um, you bought a playbook,
Yeah.
right? You bought a playbook that works. There, BCR is a very successful roofing company, and so that's awesome. So the part of the playbook that worked. What was the part of the playbook? I mean, for you, I'm assuming it was the roofing process, and you had mentioned it earlier, right? Like building roofs, like, this is how you build a roof, this is what speak to how, like, that jump start and what lessons you've learned in that side of things.
Yeah, really the piece that helped us the most was, like, how do we enable a team to get out there in the field, right, from, knocking doors to working other events that are going on out there. How do we organize and structure, train, and develop a team that can go out and do that? And for me, my background in sales, like, I kind of like that because as I was learning about the industry, kind of recognizing like, most industries, the biggest objection that you run into is financial, right? Like, I don't have money or I don't want to spend the money of that. But when it comes to roofing, right, that whole hierarchy of needs, needing a roof over your head is right up there with getting food and water.
Mhm.
Um, that's gonna take priority. And for insurance, coming in and helping in most cases cover the majority of that replacement costs. Um, that set of objections changes a little bit. So for partnering up with BCR here and having that process and that training to go through and quickly ramp up my reps and my team, that was a really
Mhm.
helpful way for us to be able to do that way faster than I think I would have been able to do independently.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what it is, you especially when you're coming into a new business, you need that framework, you need some kind of
Yeah.
framework that'll get you to the next step faster, um, but you're um, on a path to 10 million, right? So what does it look like? What do you think you're gonna finish 2025 around?
Yeah, so last year was our first 9 months here were
Yep,
just over 2. We'll be just shy of like 3.5 this year, so about
yep,
80% year-over-year growth. The goal for 2026 is to get us between that 5 and 6 number. We're still
Yep.
finalizing exactly what that to look like, and then get that 10 million by the end of 2027. So, we
Yeah.
got a path to get there, and it was kind of cool when you break it down that way. Not any one of those leaps is scary on its own, especially like knowing that we've grown this year and we're getting better. Every single
Yeah.
month that we go through too. Like that's the really fun part, and seeing how things compound. Um, so like when we break it down and make it those kind of goals, now we work backwards and be like, okay, if we need to add in another $3 million of sales this year, how do we do that? Do we need to bring in another sales manager, another sales team going up to, do I add
Yep.
in more of a
So
retail
how are you
focus?
thinking about that? How
Yeah.
are you thinking about that? What are you gonna do? What's your path?
Yeah. So right now, so we have like 8 sales reps right now here at a GM as a sales manager, a production manager, and an office manager here. So they're great. Like that was a hard part, getting that team together and being on the same page. But we are dialed in right now. We're a really good cohesive unit. So now it's like, all right, how do we layer up on that? Right? We're working some of our training so that we can be more equipped to sell in like a retail insurance hybrid system,
Mhm.
right? Like, because I'm sure I won't be the only one who's experienced that insurance isn't quite as eager to pay out a whole bunch anymore. And I don't see a future where they're going to change their mind on that, right? Like,
No?
um,
You don't think they'll
yeah,
just start writing
yeah,
checks?
crazy.
I
It
mean,
sounds fun, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't imagine that's going to change. So if that's going to evolve here, how do we enhance our training to basically do an insurance and type of pitch, right? Like insurance, okay, they're covering, one slope and no metal upgrades. How do you do that to get the insurance and the upgrades and siding, right? Like that's another great spot. Is like we can go through and really get some good offers together now to go through and really incentivize the customer to expand that project to try to do a whole home. And that's where I think our biggest leap is going to come from. Um, but then, yeah, it's like we go through and do that here is like, how do we go through and add in a part of our marketing that is retail only, right? Even though in St. Louis here, we're probably one of the top store markets of 2025, there's
Mhm.
still opportunity. We're still selling 15 to 20% right now of retail business, um, which is kind of crazy, to be honest with you. But I think that's with very little investment on my side. So if we look to crank that up even more, how can we be deliberate about looking at that growth in that facet as well?
Yeah, definitely. It can be a systematic approach. The retail and I think that's the model, and it's kind of funny. It keeps becoming more and more prevalent, I feel, in the industry. Um, John Cenac and I remember we were at we were just talking about it. We're moving into conference season, and John and I were at, man, I can't remember if it was RoofCon or Roofing Process or one of the events years ago. It's probably been 3 years now, and that was what we were talking about then. That this is the path. Like if you can do both well, if you can do retail and no storm well, that's when you can have a sustainable business, and then on those good years, you can take advantage of the good years, if
Yep.
that's a good way to put it, right? Like, you can actually execute on those good years and do the best for your customer, and the bigger the database you have, the easier it is to go back to that database and say, "Hey, a storm just came through your neighborhood.
Yep.
We're here to help," right? And it's this beautiful cycle that things go into. Coming from I mean, you were in a couple of very strong tech focused companies. Roofing has not been known to be a
Yeah.
technologically forward industry, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're getting better. What has as you've come in and looked at the tech and built your tech stack? What were some of the things that you thought about as you were building it? What have some of the outcomes been in that?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Similar thought process though, like right for DoorDash with delivery, like nobody thought delivery was a high tech avenue, right? Like that was made because of the progress of Postmates, um,
Mhm.
Grubhub, DoorDash, right? Now it's all we know, right? And this is 7 years later, right? This isn't even decades down the road. Um, so kind of the way I think about it though is right, like at some point here, you got to envision the future where a sales rep will go up to a property. He'll see like, hey, there's damage up here. He'll order satellite measurements. 30 minutes later, those measurements are in. He does his walkthrough here, has the proposal basically templatized for that homeowner for when he gets off the roof to review. They agree on the terms right there. They sign that paperwork here. That same tablet will, accept the first check or payment, that comes in here. That guy presses an order. It creates a work order, a material order automatically because they're all synced with, your database of subs and your supplier database. And your materials are ready for pickup the next day and installed the next day, right? You're at some point in the future. I don't know what 6 months or 6 years from now what that's going to be, but that's what the future roofing is going to be, right? You can have a next day turnaround, um, and so when thinking of it that way, it's like, okay, well, what are the things I need to prepare in advance to get to that future state, right? And I think right now one of the ones that I like a lot is Roofer. I think that's a great debate, right?
Yeah,
But I think it's one of the great things that is starting to help get there, where you can templatize like 90% of what a proposal will be here to be able to turn that around quickly and have a conversation instead of needing 24 to 48 hours to get back to you with an estimate. If you can sit down there right then, easy as can be, right? Um, so I think that and like some of these cool measuring tools like Hover are just awesome. They're going to get better and better here over the months and years to come.
definitely. The measurements, satellite, um, hover with the technology they use, like whatever it is, that's becoming very efficient for sure. And the that estimating and bidding process is almost it can be. What do you guys have it down to now?
I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. If you and your team aren't trained on AI yet, you're already falling behind. Competitors using AI are generating more leads, closing jobs faster, and running leaner. The AI roofing revolution gives your team the training to implement AI so you stay ahead, not scramble to catch up. Don't wait until you're losing. Get trained now at the link in the description or the sponsors page of the Roofing Success Podcast website.
It can be. What do you guys have it down to now?
How quick we can get it? It is
Time wise, yeah.
yeah, I mean, once the measurements come in, you can have it signed off for approval in about 5 minutes. Then there's a few things that like the technology isn't there quite yet on like roofs, like pipe boots or like what kind
Yes,
of chimney flashing kits or some of the generally smaller things on a job. But for us to get to a spot where I can press a button to click order and it goes right to my supplier here, like that technology is going to need to get there here, or we'll just have to keep doing
definitely.
this hybrid approach for the time being. But
Yeah,
like I said, someone's going to figure it out. Someone definitely is. It's just
they
when.
will continue. There will be continuous development on all of this, right?
Yes.
It's not. It's definitely a need. But then that moves to, well, then you just go to the app and you just press your address and then it tells you what it is.
Yeah.
And then you
I
get
know.
your roof delivered the next day.
I know you've had some guests talk about right the um, proliferation of the online estimate services and everything that's on there as well. And from my experience that we've used for those, like they do a good job of generating baseline interest. Usually, people that are doing that aren't super far yet.
Yeah.
However, as those become more and more common, is like that could be what a lot of homeowners are looking to really get and hold you to, right? And they're not
I
going to
wanna
want a
get
big
into
range.
that for a second. That's right. I
Yeah.
wanna get into that for a second, and what you said for people to understand that. You said that, a lot of people that fill those out, they're just not there yet. So from a marketing perspective for people listening, we look at top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Bottom of funnel is when someone is in buy mode, like, "I am ready to buy right now." Middle of funnel is they're they're maybe they're researching things like that. Top of funnel is, I wonder what kind of cool roofing materials are out there that I could potentially have on a home that I may build in the next 5 to 10 years, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, so informational content, middle of funnel is stuff like cost, and that's where a lot of that comes into play. And that's where you're seeing, I'm assuming, Scott, is that, yeah, people are filling these out, but it might not be someone that's like, "No, I wanted to buy today." And they're getting, I had mortgage businesses and real estate businesses in the past, and it was, you're giving them a good faith estimate,
Yep.
right? It's a
Yep.
good faith estimate, right? And I think those will get more detailed too. What do you think?
Yeah, I think right now, because of some of those fluctuations that we have, where like not everything can get mapped out quite right on those, and
That's right.
that they're mostly set up just as a per square basis, which I think the industry should probably get away from moving forward because of the nuances that go with it. But uh, I think those are going to get more granular, right? Because right now you might have a $8,000 range that you present to somebody here, but I don't think that's not going to work for homeowners moving forward. They're going to want a more, hey, this is going to cost between $10,000 and $12,000. When you go there and give them the actual estimate here, it had better be between ten and twelve thousand
Yeah.
dollars. Otherwise, you're toast. Um,
That's right.
so I do think that is going to get better as time goes on. Still kind of working through like how do we want to best use that, right? Do we want to have it be set up? We're getting ready to roll out a dedicated pricing page like that on our website so that people can have that, at
Yep.
their own convenience. And then exactly to your point earlier, is like, hey, if we build up that database here and we go through and do that, if we do a nurture campaign to, send them the holiday cards, or if there is a big storm that comes through again and we know that address got hit, I can have a customized outreach, right? Like that's going to be a way for us to exponentially grow, even if that person isn't at we call it tofu and bofu, right? Top funnel, bottom funnel.
That's right.
If they're not on that bofu side yet here, that we can have an event that can help us either for them to get there on their own or for us to have an offer or something like that that could help them progress to that stage.
Yeah, and it's getting them into the funnel is step 1. A lot of people think, a lot of times we're like, "No, a signed contract is step 1." No, a signed contract is not step 1. Like, there's a lot of steps before signed contract
Yes.
that we have to get. If someone enters our environment, right, they start to know who we are. Now we can nurture them, right? That pricing page that you're building on the website, they hit your website, now you can stay in front of them through retargeting efforts, and there's so many missed opportunities for a lot of people. It's,
I have a good example for you on actually how we've done this is that the other franchisees, they give me a hard time about this, but I love the parades going on around here, right? We got a wrapped
uh
truck, we bring it out there, we're tossing candy out left and right. I think it's one of the really fun things about, taking pride in the community again, right? Like the
Yep.
return on investment on those parades is not going to be through the roof, but I think it's something cool. And if I'm doing an appointment later, I can say, hey, did you just see us at the parade, right? But one of the things that we did once is I can't remember which one it was. Maybe it was July 4th, but we, throwing out candy for everybody down St. Charles, Missouri, and we had stapled as an estimator QR code to each piece of candy, and we're tossing that out for everybody. And we could see like, hey, we got a few people that checked it out. Here, what was kind of funny, we'd probably have to rethink it a little bit because the kids are the one that get the candy, and the kids do not care
Yeah.
about a QR code at all. So I got to figure out maybe tape them to a beer or something like that for
Look,
the
man,
grown ups out there.
100%,
Yeah,
100% speed, Scott,
yeah,
100%
exactly.
speed.
Right, yeah, we're going to iterate it. Yeah, it's still in the works.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. So now it's QR code on the beer cup, right?
that's it.
Yeah.
See,
Yep, I think
there we
you
go.
got it.
We're
I
getting
think
better
you're there.
already. We're getting
That's
better
right.
already.
That's right. But these are the things, and it's fun to do that and be part of the community, and I've talked to so many people that have had so much success there with that. Not, "Hey, what's the best lead service? How much you paying for Google Ads? Like, what do you" like, just in being a part of the community is so, so impactful. Going back to the technology talk a little bit, are you guys implementing AI in any ways in your company, or are you seeing ways in the future that you think might be applications that you could be implementing that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of agents that are out there. For me, the most common way I use it is with Zapier, so that I
Mhm.
can get all these different tools to talk to each other. The fun thing about now is like there's a lot more native integrations going between
Yes.
different systems, which is great. But there's some that don't, or maybe they don't pull all the fields, right? I think what I'm working on right now is looking back for 2025 and kind of getting some analysis on what was our effective marketing channels, right? Like, how do we go through and do this? How do we pull this from through all these different lead sources? How can I get a dashboard together that tells me like, hey, I spent $60 a lead on Thumbtack here, but I spent 100 on Angie's or whatever that is here. And how can I go through and really use that to get a good synthesis of understanding exactly what's pulling from each? We need a lot of data points for that to really click
Mhm.
and be able to get good insight. But we're at that spot now. I think we had something like 350 leads between Home Advisor and Angie's this year. Um, and like that's, you know, critical mass for us being able to understand exactly what we need to do moving forward. So now once we
That
get
data
that,
is Yeah, the data is extremely important. I have a friend working on a product right now for that for everyone, and that I think he's going into beta with a few companies here in a couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll be able to bring that and showcase that for everyone soon. But that I think that's a big missing piece in most companies is they don't understand that, right? They don't understand that buying cycle, where people are coming from, how many touch points it has taken to actually get them to turn into a customer. Was it this lead source? Was it that lead source? You know, did they see a yard sign and then Google your company? Which one do a lot of times that'll get attributed to Google, but it was your yard sign,
yep,
right? Like, and so that, your CSR asks them, "Hey, how'd you hear about us?" Google. I Googled you.
yep,
Well, I forgot to tell you that, you know,
because I saw you on a
they
Target
saw
ad
you
on
at the parade.
Facebook. Yeah,
They saw you
exactly.
at the
The
parade and they
parade.
got some
See,
candy,
exactly.
right? Like, they forgot to attribute it to the candy with the QR code. So,
That's
but
spot on.
you got some scans on it, so that's the most important thing. Um, what, what else has been impactful for you in the building of this, of your BCR franchise, of your roofing company? What other lessons have been, like, the top lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I think hiring is probably like the biggest thing when going through like how can you scale up appropriately for not. I'm very lucky. One of actually the very first hire I had was my office administrator, and we interviewed her before we even had an office. So that was pretty fun. Like going to Starbucks like down the road here. It was in January. There's snow on the ground, and we're selling her this vision of like what we're gonna be, right? And it's been so fun seeing her get excited about that vision, being part of it, and then us actually reaching part of that vision, right? Or like, and her contributing to that. Like she's been a great asset for us as we've been growing here. But like as we do that, how do we get people on board the team at the same time who have can see that vision still and are super excited to contribute to it. And now with our management team here, it's like I feel like we got that right now. So now it's going to go through and be like, if that's on board, how do we get 4 people for each of them who are just as excited, right? And for me, like one of the things I'm very curious on is like as I get, as our headcount grows as a company and I get further out of the day to day and I'm not doing the roof inspections anymore, like how well can we manage that culture here and be deliberate about what we want it to be instead of it just being kind of a side effect of whoever's in seat at that time.
Yeah, what do you attribute finding good people to?
Oh man, how do we find them?
Like, what do you
That's good because
attribute it to?
I'll
How have you found them? Have you just hired well? Have you just, was it just chance? You pulled the slot lever and you hit the jackpot? What are some of the things that led to building that good team?
I want people that are excitable. Like, as kind of weird as that sounds, and it's not like there's one question that I have on my, interview sheets here that dictate that right away, but I want somebody that can get excited because that's what I found on the management side is what's contagious, right? If you can
Mm,
get excited, if somebody else can get excited, it is so much easier to get a crowd of people excited, right? Like, so if you're hiring sales reps that report up to you, they'll be excited if you are. So as you go through and build that out, like, I think that's one of those traits that does compound. Um, and I think that is a lot more influential than maybe like, "Hey, I have 5 years in roofing sales experience, and I've done this, this, and this." Like, that's great. That's could be a great career, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's gonna be a great fit for what we're running and developing here. Um, Most of our high performing reps and people here have never worked in roofing before. And it's kind of nice because that way they're a little bit more malleable to working in the system that we wanted to. And as you might be able to tell, we don't do everything the exact same way as legacy roofing companies. So for people that are coming in with that is like, that adage of can't teach an old dog new tricks, is like I'd rather have somebody that I got to teach all that to them from the ground up.
yeah. How do you interview for excitable? Like, what do you how are you finding that in people?
Yeah, I was a great question is like, tell me about a time, that you did something that you had a lot of pride in after the fact, right?
Mm,
And if they don't light up when they say that here, they're probably not gonna be very excited. If you're not excited about retelling that memory, like, it's
mm,
not like they're gonna come around and suddenly be super excited the rest of the time, right? But
yeah,
some people share stories about, like, "Hey, I used to be a caregiver and have these kids grow up in front of me," or, what, GM used to be a professional pool player, and he would tell stories about, like, all these cool things that he gotta go and travel and do, and when you can do that, like, and get people excited around you, like, that's where it gets really fun as well. Like, it's those are the people that you wanna be around, right? That you kinda gravitate towards. Um,
yeah, definitely. Now you came from outside of the industry. Now you've gotten to see the industry for a couple of years now. You've gotten to meet I'm sure some of the other franchise owners that you've been around, or they may have come from a more traditional path. There's some that haven't. You've you've been around, right? Like you've
yeah.
gotten to live in this world now. What what's what do you think the one thing is that roofing owners or like people that come from maybe the more traditional from roofing sales into a business into roofing business ownership or from the production side into roofing business ownership, like what's the one thing that you see owners consistently overlook that keeps them stuck or gets them off track in their business?
I've been really surprised at how few know their numbers, still. I think that's been one of the things from us starting from ground up is, like, I knew exactly what it was on our first few, like, we'd do deep dives and break those down, uh, but I've been really surprised when talking with some of the other owners out here is, like, they might sign a roofing scope, right, an insurance scope here, and just do it for what it is without having any insight on if they're actually gonna make money as it's written out or if they need a supplement or anything like that. And that's happened enough now where I think that's something that I think insurance has probably figured that out as well. So, make that even less attractive on the first go around and force kind of that supplementing process here. But I think that's one of the big things that we can all get better at. And we're still working at ways that we can get better at that as
Yeah.
well. But um, we kind of recognized early on, like, cool, we got a job. That's great. And it doesn't mean that was a good job. So
Yeah. So looking back at your journey, through Major League Baseball, front offices to tech startups and into the roofing business here, what's one decision that you're most grateful that you made?
Um, it's gonna be cheesy, but you're gonna love it. It's I gotta say, marrying my wife, like she's been the reason. She's from out here in St. Charles originally. I'm from California originally. We came out here, but she's been a big enabler in helping push me on professionally above and beyond, and the big motivator for everything that I do on a day to day basis to figure out a good path for my family. So she's been a rock to help support through that thick and thin.
Awesome. Great shout out to your wife at the end.
I
Make
know
sure she
that
listens
better
to
get me
this.
some good things.
Make
So
sure she
yeah,
listens to this. Scott, thanks for your
yeah.
time today. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.